Hi guys, so today we're with a good friend of mine, Deano Aslett. Now, I've known Deano for a few years. We train and race huskies together. So, and it was only, I suppose, in very recent years that I found out that you were struggling, Deano. Give us a sort of like a literally just kind of like a 1 minute potted history. You know, you left school, went into the army. Away you go.
Left school as a not massively overachiever. I had my sights set from the age of 12 of what I wanted to do. Very focused on it. And that aim was to join the British Army. Left home at 16 and a half, travelled all the way up to North Yorkshire in Catterick, where I spent just best part of over a year training. December 1986, went over to Germany. Had a really good time over there. Interesting roles. Bit of everything, really. All good. Then in 1990, we all know that Iraq invaded Kuwait. As a unit, we were tasked with deployment to the first Gulf War, where the aim was to push Saddam back into his own country. Spent 7.5 months out in the Gulf. A lot of us came back very different to what we went out there with as.
Okay.
Left the army in 94, end of 94, beginning of 95. And it was only then people started to say how much I had changed. But when you change a little bit every year, you don't really see the change. For the last 20 years now, I've been quite aggressive. I've done drink. I've dabbled in drugs. All these little things mask, and they were like a coping strategy, which you don't see at the time.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I went to seek help, and I lost my bottle. I sat in a car park in Colchester, watching people with arms and legs and bits missing, and I thought I felt such a fraud.
Okay.
And then 3 years ago, everything come crashing down, and that's when I had to go and seek professional help.
And I think that's probably at the point, that's when I became aware of it. Well, and probably a lot of certainly your husky mates all came aware of it as well, because you've really kind of opened up at that point, which takes some bottle, I've got to tell you.
There's no point in doing it unless you're going to be 100% truthful. It doesn't matter how brutal and how moody it gets. If you can't be truthful with yourself, you're not going to get the right help.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So what was your actual tipping point where you just like, I need to sort my life out? I don't mean how that sounds, sorry.
No, I was in the kitchen. As I say, I've struggled for years with anger, sometimes low mood. And I wanted a brew. There's no sugar in the pot. So I opened a bag of sugar. And for as long as I can remember, the bag of sugar always fitted into the pot.
Yeah.
When I emptied it. Whether the wife had bought a bigger bag or the bags have actually changed size, I don't know, because I opened it up, I poured it in, not really paying much attention because I've opened it up, I started to pour, and then all of a sudden, I've got sugar everywhere. It's all over the side, it's all over the kitchen floor. The dogs are now going mental to try and
To
lick
lick
up
it
the
all up
sugar.
off the floor, yeah.
I just completely lost it. Things went flying, things got broken. The dogs were really scared and had bolted out of the kitchen by then. And I fell to the floor, into the cupboards, into the corner of a cupboard, just curled up as tight as I could, and I just cried my heart out.
Wow.
And it was something so stupid, so trivial.
But that's years of crap, isn't it? What was just absolutely built up to that point. And the one thing, I don't want to go off on one, but I would personally like to thank you for everything you've done for in the service or whatever else, because it's for people like you what means that I've got the freedom to do stuff like this without fear. So I appreciate that personally. So I just wanted to chuck that in there because there's clearly been a sacrifice on that, really. So
good shout.
So when you basically had the final breakdown, what was it? What got you to stand up and actually go to? You said it was a charity what helped you, wasn't it?
First thing I had to do was speak to my doctor.
Yeah.
Spoke to my doctor. He put me straight on a course of tablets called sertraline, just to try and help me out. I then got put. What's the word I'm after? He put me on to a charity called Combat Stress down in Leatherhead in Surrey. A couple of weeks later, went down there, had a chat with them. Yeah, very much might be able to help you. I then went down there again in the October, about 6 weeks after, and was on a 2-week in-house, completely dry, no drugs, very, very military sort of orientated sort of program. And that was just covering everything from anxiety to anger management to sleep hygiene, sorting out your medication.
Yeah.
Met some very good friends. One of them, it turned out, was had the same pretty much issues as me. And he, at this specific point in time, which would be where my issues lie, he was probably less than a kilometre away from where I was. Completely different unit, completely different cat badge, but just had the same sort of tasking.
Wow.
Very small world. Done that. Then the meds went up and up and up. I was now virtually maxing out on sertraline and didn't feel like they were working.
Because sertraline is normally for PTSD, isn't it?
Yeah, it covers depression, PTSD, a whole host of mental health
neurological things.
It's the first go-to tablet. I think that it's the most common one used.
Yeah.
Done that. Then I got invited to come back on an anger course. That was another 2 weeks down in house at Turret House in Leatherhead. didn't get as much out of that as I got out of the first course.
Yeah.
The first course, I learned a lot more about what was going on and how to try and make sense of why my brain goes into survival mode. From there, I went on, my tablets then changed, and I found myself in A&E in the December after taking an attempted overdose. Came out from the hospital into the Mid-Essex health team, crisis team. Within 2 weeks, I was back in A&E. Middle of December, just before Christmas. Freezing cold, Dean gets triggered and runs for the door. At the time, I was wearing a pair of slippers, pair of shorts and t-shirt. I then found myself buying a litre of scotch, and I found myself in an apex of a bridge over a dual carriageway. Drank myself into a whiskey-induced coma. Massive police out, everyone out searching. The police told me the following morning that if it had been another half an hour, then I was already hypothermic by then when they found me. So another 20 minutes, half an hour, it would have been irretrievable.
Mm.
So did you plan to just get as pissed as you can, or did you plan to call it a day? What was your intention when you got that whistle?
I'd had enough.
So again?
I had enough. The tablets before the week, 2 weeks before, didn't work.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd try a different approach. Sort of when I ran out the door in silly clothing, my mind then started ruminating, and I just put myself into a downward spiral.
Yeah.
To the fact of I've had enough. I knew pretty much I wouldn't survive a night out in what I was wearing. I think
in midwinter.
Yeah, I think the whiskey was just a thing of falling asleep.
Yeah.
And not really knowing too much about it.
Yeah. Okay. Because the reason I asked that is one of the things I looked at when I started MANUP originally 2 years ago, actually, nearly to the date, is I noticed I started looking at suicide rates with men, and that's something we don't really cover that much. And then I saw on this chart somewhere that suicide rates are dropping. Look how good we're doing stuff. But then I started to notice that death by drink and drugs is going up. That's not suicide. So if you'd have died that night, you probably wouldn't have been classed as a suicide. It would have been, what's that terminology? I've forgotten what
overdose or something, I suppose.
Yeah,
is it? I don't know, but
and that's something I think we
drink or drug abuse.
Yeah, so that's why I thought I'd ask that really. So where are you at now?
Both of them are down as attempted suicides on my medical records.
Right, okay.
Now, after working with a cracking charity, walking with the wounded, do an awful lot for men's mental, veterans' mental health. 18 sessions of EMDR, eye movement desensitization, and reprogramming.
Yeah.
and a lot of work with another charity called Icarus. They're veterans and blue light services.
Okay.
I've seen their name pop up a few times. We're through to MANUP, actually. Yeah, so
Cracking, absolutely phenomenal charity.
Yeah.
All I do is message the lady, my counsellor, and she literally fits me in within a day or two.
Yeah.
And it's just like a talk over the phone, does a bit of hypnosis.
Oh wow.
So with that, I'm a lot better than what I was.
Yeah.
I'm actually out in trying to enjoy life again. That's in loads of aspects, even going to the park. It just getting out and trying to actually live life rather than some days just being afraid to go out the street door.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. I see the other day that when you'd been over to Rendlesham training the dogs, you'd built a little bivvy with the boys and stuff as well. So
Yeah,
and it's sometimes the simple things, isn't it?
yeah, just having a laugh with them. Dad didn't used to be a grumpy old man, you know, very disciplined in life. And when it comes to playtime, it is playtime. Let your hair down, anything goes, really, you know.
Yeah.
Everything comes out in the wash.
Yeah.
But something must pull you out of these dark moods, because I've seen obviously your communications, and you're very open about how you feel and what's going on in your life, and I know that you absolutely adore your wife, and I know that you absolutely adore your sons and stuff, and that must feel really crap when you come out of that dark spell and kind of look back and realize what you've done. That
guilt trips, like you, horrendous guilt trips. Pain, like pain that's worse than like cutting yourself with a knife or anything like that. You know, it's, you look at them and sometimes they don't want to come near you, or Dad's on one again, and you know, gives a cuddle, and they're sort of looking at you thinking, well, I don't know, am I going to get my head ripped off?
Yeah.
Yeah, that hurts.
And what about your, because obviously you've got a lot of what should we call them, other ex-vets or colleagues or whatever on your Facebook, and then I know that watching it, there's a lot of kind of dark humor goes on, isn't there? And I mean, there's a lot of somebody will say they're struggling with something, and there's a lot of guys on there who mean the right thing by coming, go on son, what you're doing, pull yourself together, and give us a call and all the rest of it. How does that, when you're in those very, very dark moods, does that kind of help? I mean, we know it's all constructive and we know it's all banter, but does that actually help you at all, or is it not really of any assistance? I mean, that it's well meant.
Good question.
Yeah, a very good question. Sometimes it's so difficult. One day all I want is a cuddle and an arm put around me, and the next time I could just push exactly the same scenario, same everything, and I just push the person away and really withdraw into my shell. And then sometimes you need to the outsider, it would look like it was abuse.
Yeah,
I can see why you say that. Yeah,
I can see. Yeah,
but that it's not abuse. It's just the way and the humour that the army has drilled into you, you know.
Yeah.
I regularly get a few expletives thrown at me by my best mate when it was really dark last Christmas. He finished his day at work, realised that I was in trouble, and he drove down from North Wales.
Wow.
Picked me up, drove home, and we ended up sitting there having a beer at 4 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, it was got told some harsh truths.
Yeah.
Does that help or does that hinder? Tricky one, isn't it?
It's it relights your internal fire that, you know, we've been through worse than this.
Yeah.
You know, and it relights the fire and just gives you that determination again to be the best version of yourself that you can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good.
You know,
Good
the drive.
Yeah. Yeah. So but just before we wind down, because we're getting close to the 20 minutes then, is there anything what you would have, is there any tipping point in your life where you look at it now and gone, I wish I would have sorted something out, I would have sorted it out at that point? Is there anything?
There was no help back in the day. We didn't talk about it. The military way of dealing with things is go out and get bluted.
Yeah.
And that's why I find most veterans turn to drink as a coping mechanism.
Well, I run a soup kitchen, and they're all ex-forces. Well, most of them are ex-forces. You know, so it's sad to see. Yeah.
When I first went back to combat stress on that first day, I said about being in Colchester in the car park, watching all these people with arms and legs missing and feeling like a fraud. And the woman that was talking to me said, well, where are you going to be in 10 years' time if you walk out the door now?
Mm.
And that was quite a
Provoke some thought. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like a slap round the chops. That, look, I really sort of need to do this.
Yeah.
I really wanted to walk away at that point because I didn't know whether I was strong enough. But with the right partner and the right people around you, that you have to do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how tough, how hard it is. You just giving up's not an option.
Yeah. No, that's good. So just before we wind down, then, have you got any advice for somebody who might be sitting at home watching this video on the page of just like thinking, no one's going to listen? What's the point? Have you got any advice for them?
Get off your backside. Speak to your doctor. Yeah. First point of call, speak to your doctor. Your doctor will then point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Failing that, with social media now, there's a whole host of groups that are doing it phenomenal work. Half of them are not even known.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah, more so with MANUP. There's some charities out there where they've been helping people in the thousands, and no one knows who they are. It's incredible stuff. So who's the main couple of charities who've helped you personally?
Combat Stress is where I went first of all.
Yeah.
They've now got too big. You know, the CEOs are on silly money and they've sort of lost their way. If I was in trouble, Icarus online would be a definite point of call. PTSD Resolution,
yeah,
give them a call. Walking with the Wounded.
That is,
they're part,
yeah,
they're part of the. They come under the British Legion.
Right, okay.
Of arm of the British Legion, and SAFA, Soldiers and Sailors and Servicemen Association.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a good start.
Veterans United Against Suicide is another one.
Well, what I'll
all
do...
run by ex-military. Most of them are ex-warrant officers or senior NCOs. They're like high to mid management.
Yeah.
So they really completely and utterly understand what you're talking about, where you're coming from. You know, they've been into war zones. They've seen what other people have seen, so they can really, get their heads around what you're talking about. I guess.
Yes, yes. There will always be someone there that has been to the same conflict or had the same experience that can actually sit down and listen. The big thing that I find as well, we call it a buddy check. If you haven't heard from your mate for a couple of weeks and you're normally quite chatty on social medias, different platforms, sorry, drop him a buddy check. Oh, all right, mate, what are you up to? Yeah. You've always, we always use the term, always got your six. Yeah, as in looking forward, 6 o'clock is your back.
It's beyond you,
yeah. A lot of us don't look after ourselves as well as we should.
Yeah.
But we're more worried about our mates.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with you. That it's funny because we had a chat with a doctor the other day, and I said to him, if you're giving an old lady or somebody some horrible news, and you know they're probably going to end up carking it, but you can't say it, how do you live with that? And he said most people in the medical profession don't. It just builds up and builds up and builds up. So, but no, I appreciate this call. That's
powerful stuff, Deano. Thank you.
That is. So thank you very much. So I'm going to hit the stop recording now, if that's okay on there.